I've been driving
Welcome
down
back
this
to Vibe
back road,
Podcast.
chasing
Today we're
my
discussing the bullet in the
mistakes.
1934 Pyjama Girl case, a topic researched for us by David Morgan. I'm joined by Charles and Angela.
Good to be here, Alice. As a cold case investigator, the Pyjama Girl case has always been one that demands a closer look. The identification years later as Linda Agostini was a formidable puzzle to solve.
And I'm Angela, a medical expert specializing in ballistics and the forensic analysis of gunshot wounds. I focus on understanding what happens when a bullet meets the body and how that informs investigations.
Thank you both for joining us. The Pyjama Girl case is legendary for its enduring mystery. Charles, can you set the scene for us regarding this case before we dive into the specifics of the bullet?
Absolutely. We're talking about September 1, 1934, when a woman's body was found in a culvert near Albury. What makes this case so haunting is that for years, despite a massive investigation costing a fortune back then, the body remained unidentified for years. It was famously preserved in formalin at Sydney University for the inquest, which itself took over 3 years to even open. The police expected a dramatic story, but the crucial evidence, the bullet, took center stage.
And Angela, that's where your expertise comes in. The text describes a bullet found via X-ray. Can you walk us through what those X-rays revealed about the bullet's journey?
Certainly, the X-rays provide a critical, albeit grim, roadmap. The profile view clearly showed a dense, rectangular metallic object lodged just behind and slightly below the right eye socket. From the frontal view, it was slightly to the victim's right side. This evidence strongly points to an entry wound at the front right side of the head, very close to or even directly through the right eye or orbit.
An entry through the eye, that suggests a very close range, almost personal attack. It certainly doesn't sound like a random, distant shot.
Exactly, Charles. As the projectile traveled, the X-rays indicated diffuse cranial fractures. It passed backward and slightly downward, losing velocity before coming to rest in the upper cervical area, specifically around the C1 to C2 vertebrae, approximately behind the angle of the jaw. What's significant is that because this was a small caliber round, we didn't see the explosive fragmentation typical of high-velocity rifle rounds. Instead, it was a short, shallow path before lodging. They often deform or tumble upon hitting bone, especially dense structures like the orbital bone or the base of the skull, and that kinetic energy is quickly expended, causing the bullet to stop internally. The reconstructed trajectory is quite clear: front of the head, near the right eye, angled backward and downward, finally lodging at the upper neck. The likely cause of death would have been a combination of skull fracture and brain trauma from the shot, possibly alongside additional blunt force injuries mentioned in the wider case.
That level of detail from X-rays in 1934 is impressive. It gives us a very precise picture of what happened, even if the who remained elusive in 1934. The forensic technology for the time was quite advanced to pinpoint that.
The text goes on to mention the specific type of weapon, a Webley and Scott automatic. Charles, what can you tell us about that gun in the context of the 1930s in Australia?
The Webley and Scott automatic was a significant pistol of its era, and notably, the New South Wales police were being issued with the latest type of these pistols in 1934. That's a crucial detail. It was a well-regarded weapon, known for its improvements, including a safety feature that allowed it to be carried cocked with perfect safety, enabling speedy use in emergencies. This means it was a fairly common and reliable choice for law enforcement, and perhaps others who valued discreet self-defense.
From a technical perspective, the Webley and Scott automatic, likely a .32 ACP or similar .25 caliber, was a product of continuous refinement. The text details the evolution from the model 1907 to the model 1908, outlining numerous internal and external differences even though they often shared similar designations. For instance, the model 1908 6.35 mm and the .32 caliber version. Interestingly, neither of these common models typically had sights of any kind, which is an important consideration when discussing accuracy.
No sights. That's quite a detail for an investigator. It implies a weapon not necessarily designed for precise long-range targeting, but rather for very close-quarters defense or, frankly, an attack where precise aiming might not be the primary concern. Given the entry point Angela described, that fits.
Indeed, the pistol's design evolved over the years, with changes to the trigger guard, safety lever, slide serrations, and even the internal lockwork. Production continued to some extent into the late 1930s, assembling from existing parts. They were relatively compact, making them easy to conceal. The .25 caliber model 1907, for example, weighed just over 10 ounces and was only 4.3 inches long. These were small, personal weapons.
So, the bullet identified the type of weapon, and that weapon was a common one, even used by police at the time. This adds another layer of complexity rather than narrowing down the suspect, doesn't it, Charles?
It does. While identifying the make and model is a huge step, if it's a weapon in wide circulation, especially among a group like law enforcement, it complicates matters significantly. You're not looking for a unique, bespoke weapon, but one that could be almost anywhere. It shifts the focus from the gun itself to who owned that specific gun at that specific time. At the time in 1934, without a body identified, linking an owner to the victim becomes an even more profound challenge. This bullet, while a silent witness, holds only part of the story.
A truly fascinating and heartbreaking cold case. That's all for today. A big thank you to our guest researcher, David Morgan, for providing our topic.
This back road, chasing my mistakes, trying to find redemption in the choices that I make. Every mile reminds me of the love I couldn't hold. Every scar's a story, every tear's a piece of gold. And I swore I'd never turn around.